Hi there. Very big, quick shout out from me to you. Apparently, a gathering of the clans at ICC in Edinburgh, the great and the good of NHS Scotland. So, my name's Andy, Dr. Andy Cope. I'm the opposite of all the other doctors you've ever met in your entire life. The T-shirt gives you a huge clue. I'm actually a doctor of happiness. I don't. I know. I do know. I know that doesn't land well with some people. I was going to call myself Dr. Feelgood, but that's a bit creepy, isn't it? So basically, if you think of all the doctors you've ever met, I'm the exact opposite of them. So what doctors and psychologists have always done is look at what's wrong with you, which I think is fabulous. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. But what I did was spend 12 years at Loughborough University looking at what's right with you. So what makes a good life? What creates well-being and wellness and human flourishing. So basically, I did a PhD in that, which I know is a bit odd. So I know you're about to finish your conference, so I'll make this super brief because I know you want to get home. And by the way, it might be sort of slightly mild swearing because, well, I'm afraid that's a bit me. 2 new diseases in town, all right? So breaking news. Sorry about that, infection control and all that malarkey. Let me explain. So I read Guy Browning's book a few years ago, and he talks about what he first one is brilliant. He calls it minor glumness. And minor glumness is that feeling. It's not in your head, but it sits in the pit of your tummy, and it's just that kind of feeling of meh. I'm not sure I can do this anymore. You know, life's a bit difficult here right now. So minor glumness. So it's not depression, it's not sadness, but it's that feeling in the pit of your tummy when the alarm goes at stupid o'clock. So, and he says it's caused by any of these he calls it the 4 horsemen of negativity, which I think are exhaustion. That's an easy one to tick in your game. The weather, the news, and the traffic. But we could add a 5th one, like a pandemic or even a war in Ukraine, whatever. So if you've got any of those things, then you'll have minor glumness in the pit of your tummy. But here's the thing, right? If you can tick yes to all of those, all the above, so what was that? That was exhaustion, the weather, the news, and the traffic. If you've got all of those in your life, then your minor glumness will have flared up to what Guy Browning calls irritable bastard syndrome. All right? Okay, whoa. Now, I know that's got a naughty word in it, so I'll call it IBS. But the thing is, you might be chuckling if you think that's funny, which I think is very funny, by the way, is I think it's funny because... And you think it's funny because you know somebody who's got that, don't you? That slightly low-level chuntering under their breath. The problem with irritable bastard syndrome, I'll call it IBS, right? The problem with IBS is that it's highly infectious. I know COVID's infectious, but IBS is like doubly infectious. It only really takes one person in your team and everybody's like, yeah, it's rubbish here, yeah, you're right, the NHS, blah, blah, woof, woof. It only takes one person at home, doesn't it? One person in your family to come home grumbling and being irritable, and the whole family is on a bit of a downer. And I think, unfortunately, the irritable bastard syndrome in the modern world is a very, very easy thing to catch. And it might not kill you, but it will wear you down and it'll lay you low and it'll stop you shining, all right? It's very easy to contract it. I mean, to be fair, that you're underfunded and overworked and underpaid and there's nowhere to park and the waiting list is never ending and there's restructures and politics and there's half your staff off with illness. Crack on. Oh, and can you retire when you're 75? Look, it's no wonder that IBS is so rife at the moment, all right? Now, the thing with that is that it isn't sadness, it's not a depression, it's not a clinical disorder, but it's a sense of what I call languishing. And languishing is that sort of, we're back to minor glumness, we're back to that sense of something missing. We're back to that sense of the world is feeling quite brutal and full on and relentless and exhausting. And I think when the world's doing its worst, it becomes even more important that we know how to be at our best. All right, so the point is, folks, this languishing, this feeling of languishing is like, my thing is this, if there's something missing in your life, then it's probably you. All right, I mean, what I mean by that, I don't mean to sound harsh about that, I mean you at your best more often, which takes me into the science of happiness and the science of positive psychology. So I want to leave you with a takeaway, something, just a very, very simple thing, and I've got it because I came at it from... I read a book by a guy called Sean Acor called The Happiness Advantage, and it appears in his book. It's a very simple thing, it's a very obvious thing, but it had a sort of health service connotation. So here we go. It's called the 10-5 principle. All right, so basically it's this. It's the simplest thing in the world. So listen up, this is your takeaway, 2 minutes, then you'll be away, all right? The 10-5 principle basically means this, that anybody who comes within 10 feet of you, you need to make eye contact and a little nod. And anybody who comes within 5 feet of you, you should smile and say hi. All right, so very, very simply, let me go again. Anybody from now on, not just at work, but at home and wandering around Scotland, anybody who comes within 10 feet of you, make eye contact, and anybody who comes within 5 feet of you, you smile and say hi. Now you might think, well, what difference does that make? Well, Sean Aker reported on a study that was done in an American hospital where everybody went on a course that told them about the 10-5 principle. Now, they're really kind of big boffins, the surgical people who've got big foreheads here, right? Super clever. And they're like, well, that sounds rubbish. That sounds too simple to be true. That'll never work. But everybody gave it a go, right? And bearing in mind there's about 8,000 staff in this hospital. Every member of staff was doing the 10-5 principle. And what they found was that it made a huge difference to the entire culture of the hospital. And it made a difference to the patient outcomes, right? So get this, right? So somebody is visiting their sick relative in Ward 42. So they pull up in the car park, they walk through the hospital, and every single member of staff, right, was walking with a spring in their step and a little smile in their eye and saying, hi, how are you? Hi. And they were making eye contact. So the visitors who weren't feeling very well before they've even got to their ill relative, they were feeling better by the time they got to Ward 42. So then, because they were smiling and feeling amazing, then the patients were getting better quicker because of the 10-5 principle, right? So there's a medical outcome. It didn't cost a bean. And all it was about taking personal responsibility for having a spring in your step, making eye contact, walking tall, changing your body language, saying hi to people. I can't think of anything simpler than that. It'll work beautifully across Scotland. It works pretty much everywhere. It doesn't work except London on the tube. If you go to don't do the 10-5 principle on the tube, you will get arrested. 10-5 principle, that's your takeaway from me. I mean, that doesn't cost a bean. It's a very simple thing to do, and it might just make you feel better and put a spring in your step, right? Because the truth is, what I figure is this, right? I can't control a pandemic. I can't make it go away. I can't change the war situation in the Ukraine. I can't make the sun shine. I can't even make the buses run on time. But what the science of happiness does give me is a bit more control over me. And the truth is very simple. If I can upgrade to best possible self and I can maintain that position a bit more often, then it won't change the external world, but it'll change my internal world. It'll change me here, and it'll put me in a better place to deal with the pandemic and a war and a rainy day and a late bus. It won't change them, it'll change me. And I'll leave you with a very, very, very final thought, and it's this. Remember mid-pandemic, right at the start, I think it was a Thursday evening, certainly down in England, I'm sure it was the same in Scotland, is we'd come out onto our doorsteps at 7 p.m. and we'd applaud. It was a beautiful thing. I'd have tears in my eyes. My entire street would be out and we'd be like 7 o'clock, like, bravo NHS, bravo teachers, key workers, social care, looking after my old mum in the care home. Thanks team, being men, everybody, wow, we love you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, that stopped. Now you're on the receiving end of anger again, aren't you? Now it's like, come on NHS, I need my knee fixing. Pull your fingers out. Why am I waiting a year and a half? So folks, the world is slipping back to its bad old ways. So I think positive psychology and what we've got to do is jab ourselves against IBS, all right? Because what the world needs is you at your absolute best. Against the odds, all right? Against the odds, I know that, but that's what it is. So I thought I'd finish this conference back to the good old days on a Thursday night. I don't work in the NHS, but I'm a customer of the NHS. Whether you're in the States, whether you're IPC, I don't care. It's like, thank you for doing what you do. I hope you've enjoyed your conference. 10-5 all the way home.